Hi and welcome to the live stream. My name is Fabian Holland. I'm a guitarist, singer, and songwriter based in Berlin, in Germany, but I'm originally from the UK. I hope everyone's good. I hope everyone's well. This is a live stream, so I might go on for maybe an hour, maybe longer. We will see. But this live stream, we're talking about slide guitar, and this is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy playing slide, although I don't think I wouldn't necessarily call myself a slide player, but I just really enjoy it. And I do have a few songs where I play slide. I play a lot of lap slide stuff. I don't play too much bottleneck, although I'd love to get more into bottleneck playing. And in this live stream, I'm gonna kind of almost reintroduce myself to bottleneck live on the stream. I thought that would be a fun thing to do. We'll see. But I just need to check something. So like all these live streams, I have a subject, but you can feel free to ask me any question. I'm going to talk for a little bit, maybe play, but feel free to fill up that chat box and ask me any question related to any video. Maybe you've seen some other videos, not necessarily about this topic, about slide, but feel free, and I'll try and answer them. I'm currently about 2 weeks behind answering my YouTube comments. I really try to answer all of my comments on my videos, but it's just really hard to keep up with it because it's a constant stream. So I'm about 2 weeks behind. So I apologize if you've asked me a question recently and you haven't had an answer yet. I will get to it. I promise I will. It just takes me a little while sometimes. But a quick way of getting ahead of the queue is to join up these, come along to the live streams, and then you can ask me the question live on the stream, and I answer every question on the live stream. So, that's just a quick way of getting your question answered if you don't want to wait too long. So in this stream, I'm going to be talking about slide guitar. What is slide guitar? So this is for it's not for necessarily advanced players. This video, this is just like an introduction to slide and kind of the things that you can do with it. Why I think it's so great, and why I think that every player should at least explore slide guitar, and how it can elevate your music. So this is what we're kind of talking about in the live stream. I just need to click a few buttons. Like always, let me know that you can hear me. That's a good one. That it's coming through okay. Sometimes these streams, you never know if it's too loud, if it's kind of coming across too quiet. So yeah, it's one of those things. But if you could let me know, then that would be amazing. All right. So first things first, what is slide guitar? Slide guitar is basically, you have usually it's like a bottleneck or a piece of metal, or back in the day, people used to use anything, a knife, a spoon, a piece of metal, anything that can basically go on the strings and create this sound. And basically what it's doing, it's replacing the frets, because if you think about it, what we're doing when we're fretting a note, if you look at what's happening, the string is hitting the fret, right? I mean, it's obvious, but that's really what's going on. And the slide kind of replaces that fret, so you no longer need the frets. You can create the same note just by hovering and placing the the slide or whatever material you have on that, exactly where the fret is. And obviously it gives a different sound. And I might look into this or talk about this a little bit on the different sort of material that you can use as a slide and kind of the different sounds that you can create. The differences between different materials can make a huge difference with slide. So that's basically what slide is in a nutshell. The technique became popular in like the early 20th century among blues musicians. They would use all kinds of things to slide along the guitar, and it can be played all kinds of ways. It can be played like this with like a bottleneck or a piece of pipe or something on your finger. And then you can sort of kind of slide like this, or you can also play it on your lap like this, and then you can use like a piece of metal like this, like a solid piece of metal, and slide like this. So there's lots of different ways to kind of do it, and we're gonna kind of look at various different ones. So I'll do a little bit of playing whilst people ask questions and all stuff like this. So I'm in Dadgad right now. D-A-D-G-A-D. And what I like to do, I'm not a huge fan of, at least with bottleneck, of like trying to do too many chords, because that I felt can sound a bit messy. I can try. And obviously I'm in Dadgad, so if I try and just do a chord that's like this, it's gonna sound okay. But it's basically like a sus chord, there's no third in there, so it's not major or minor. It's just roots and fifths and a fourth, basically. So it can sound okay, but I really like picking out individual notes with slide, but that does make it a little harder to do, especially in bottleneck, I find. So the thing that I like to do, and that I recommend people to do, at least when you're starting out, is just try and just hit the first string, the thinnest string, and just try and hit some notes. So I'm going to play in like a minor key. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit exactly where the frets are. Although it can be a little hard to see, and you need to kind of feel where it is, because obviously a bottleneck is not like a fret. It's a lot thicker than a fret. So you need to kind of guess where it's hitting the string, and then hopefully that's the right note. And sometimes it might be a little sharp or a little flat. But the good thing is you can add this vibrato, which kind of helps with that. You look at some really top slide players, and they're so good at hitting the notes exactly right and super fast as well that they don't need to use vibrato. Vibrato can cover up these slight kind of I wouldn't say errors, but misjudgments, when you're a little flat on a note. I'm trying to hit this, but if I give it some vibrato, especially if it's wide vibrato, it kind of, it gets away. I get away with it, So this is kind of what I like to do, is I like to pick these notes. And obviously as soon as you start playing the other strings, it gets a little harder, because I'm trying to sort of bend my slide and hit these notes. Without sounding too messy, you know. And it can be a little tricky if you're not used to it, and you may be able to tell that I haven't played slide, at least bottleneck slide, for a long time, that I'm not used to having this. I'm not used to maneuvering this around my fretboard. So I'm trying to use, I don't know if you can see that, trying to use the kind of the tip of the slide to hit the string. You know, if my finger here was the string, I'm trying to hit it like that. So I need to angle it if I want to hit that string and not hit any other string, you know. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I don't want these other sort of sounds, at least too much, you know. I think a little bit of slide, sort of string buzzing and stuff, is expected with slide. But I don't want it too kind of stringy, if that makes sense. If that makes any sense. You know, so yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do here. And then, so I'm in a minor key. I'm playing in D minor. But I can also play in major key, and that's what I love about using DADGAD as well, that it's not in it doesn't have that third, you know. So I can then play in a major key as well. Which also sounds lovely with slide. So it's a lot of fun, but obviously you need to practice and get used to using the slide, and it kind of feels a little bit awkward at first. It feels like it's this weird extension. You feel like you've got a really fat finger that you're trying to maneuver around. But one kind of a little tip here is dampening the strings behind the slide. And this, when you play with the slide, you're also getting the sound behind the slide. A little sort of harmonic, you know, at the same time. And you kind of hear that, and that can be great. You know. But you don't necessarily want it all the time. especially maybe on a lower. A lower string, or maybe you do, depends on. It actually sounds quite good. But it's to dampen the strings, it just kind of makes it a little bit neater. You know, between, let's hear the difference between this. You hear that harmonic as well? So especially when I move the slide. And then I'll do it without, so I dampen. You know, it's a lot, you can hear that note a lot clearer without the other harmonic happening at the same time. So it depends on what you're after. Yeah, so you hear that? It's quite high. I don't know if you can hear that if you're not wearing headphones, but it's like a high harmonic. And just dampening that behind the slide stops that. So it's a lot cleaner sound if you're after that sound. So that's a little tip there. Let me talk about this slide for a second, and then I'll go to maybe some of the comments and some of the questions that we're getting. This is a bottleneck slide, and it's actually where did I get it from? It's from Diamond Bottlenecks, I think. I think they're a company in the UK, diamondbottlenecks.co.uk. I think that's the website. They make really nice slides. I haven't really tried many other slides. I was making my own slides for a while. You can kind of make them out of just stuff that you have. Like this is the end of a bottle. And there's ways to sort of break them quite cleanly, and then you have to sand them down. But it can be a little dangerous breaking glass, and it's not so neat. Diamond Bottlenecks, I think you can actually send your bottles. If you have a bottle that you really like a wine bottle or something, they can turn it into a slide for you. But what they do is you give them the measurements of your finger, and all the how thick it is, how long it is, and stuff like that, and which obviously the finger that you want to be using for a slide. I use my little finger. Some people use their ring finger. I like the little one. And then they take a bottle and they basically sand it down so it fits your finger. So it's like a perfect fit. And obviously with a bottle, it's not gonna. It's sort of it gets thicker on the top, right? I mean that's a thing that happens with bottles. So it's kind of tight at the bottom and it's a bit looser at the top. But I actually quite like that because it means that I can, when I don't have to angle it too much when I'm trying to hit these other notes. I can kind of easily hit them, with this slide, because it's kind of fans out anyway a little bit. Does that make sense? So that's really cool. So I really recommend, if you're after like a really nice bottleneck slide, diamondbottlenecks.co.uk. If you live in the UK, they ship worldwide, I'm pretty sure. And they do all kinds of fancy slides and stuff like that. I can't remember how much this cost me. I got it years ago now, but yeah, I'm sure there's also other great companies that do a similar thing as well. But it's really handy having something that really perfectly fits your finger. There's nothing worse than having like a really loose slide or a really tight slide that's uncomfortable. And I'll just talk a little bit about a little bit about the glass, something between glass and metal. I don't actually have a metal slide apart from this one, which is for the lap steel, which I'll be playing in a little bit. But it's basically, I think the heavier a slide, then the more resonance you're going to get out of it. I also think that with the strings as well. So the thicker the strings, I think the nicer the sound. So on my whenever I play like a lap steel or something, I always try and have really thick strings, especially for the first two strings. You know, I think on all my lap slides, I have gauge on the first two, the unwound strings. I have 14 and 18, so that's kind of considered heavy gauge, and it just sounds really nice with a slide. So this is medium gauge, so it's 13. Is it 13 and a 17? I think. Sounds okay. Obviously, it also depends on what you're playing with on your right hand, you know. But especially with the glass, the benefit is that it's light and that you can move it around really quickly. But it's not as resonant as the lap, especially the lap. Which I'll be playing in a second, because these ones are designed to be super heavy. Like this is a really heavy slide, you know. I don't know what's inside it. It's not just metal. They like put weights and stuff inside it or something. I don't know. But it makes it really, really resonant, and it makes it just sound really nice. And also the shape of this is just kind of perfect for getting those single notes. You know, you can really just use the tip of it and the edge. Absolutely perfect and it fits your fingers perfectly. But obviously this is for playing lap or dobro style guitar, so a little different to bottleneck. Let's have a look at the comments and questions. Now let's have a little ganders. See who's here. Just need to open my chat section. Hey everyone, how's it going? Hey from the UK. Hey Ronald. We can hear you. Fantastic. Hey, how's it going? From Galway, Nick is. G says, can you talk about dampening the strings behind the slide? Yeah. How high is your action? This is not actually set up for slide. It's this is like a standard action for how I would have it if I was just playing finger picking. If I was playing slide a lot more often, I'm talking bottleneck here, then I would have it a lot higher. Not huge amount higher, but a little bit higher. Because it just, it's okay once you get up here. Obviously the action is a bit higher, but especially towards these like first 5 frets, you know, I'm just getting a little bit of fret, sort of touching the fret a little bit too much there, you know. So I would have it a little bit higher, but I can't tell you in terms of millimeters. I usually sort of measure at the 12th fret how high I have it. And then what do? I forget now. Maybe at the 1st fret and the 5th fret. But yeah, this is not really set up for bottleneck slide. And I talked about the dampening already. Alexander says, Nick Worley, hello from Poland. I was married times in Galway, playing a few times. Oh, nice. Yeah, Galway's. You know what? I haven't actually been to Galway. I'd love to go. Been to Northern Ireland a lot. Just like a lot of friends from Northern Ireland. One fundamental question, yeah. Should flamenco guitarists also use slide? That's a good question. Maybe not. Let's try it. You know, I have a nylon. I have to jump off my seat and grab the nylon. You know what? I think it's not gonna sound very good. We'll see. Got one right here. Just because of the nylon strings. I mean, it's. I mean, this is in standard tuning, you know, but just to hear the sound. I mean, it definitely doesn't last as long, you know. It like the sound, the resonance is not as long. You know, but you know, if I would put this in like an open tuning, maybe. The action up a bit. It's not as bad as I thought it was gonna sound. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. It doesn't sound too bad, actually. You know, it could be interesting to just if you have like a few songs, just to get the slide out and just flamenco slide. Now that is a combination I would love to hear. Yeah, do it, Alexander. Get a slide. Try it out. Experiment. It's quite fun, actually. I would try it. You know, anything's worth a try. I mean, people would probably look at you funny for playing a slide on a nylon string, but obviously the steel string, you know, lasts a lot longer than the nylon, but still it sounded quite nice still, you know. So, yeah, try it. Ronald says, what's the difference between brass, plastic, and the glass? Yeah, I unfortunately, I don't have to, hold on, plastic? Do you use plastic slides? I'd never seen plastic slides. Or maybe, no. You're talking about slides, right, Ronald? I don't think I've seen plastic slides. Has anyone seen plastic slides before? I'm pretty sure it's just glass, but I don't know. Maybe there are plastic ones out there. Yeah, it's just in the tone. I find glass tends to, it doesn't resonate as much as metal. I think the harder and the heavier the slide, the kind of the more it resonates. But I find glass can sound almost less harsh than metal. It's a little bit warmer sounding, you know. Plus it's lighter to move around than the metal. I've had brass slides before. I should have got some for this live stream, but yeah, it's brass. It can be fairly light as well. It's not as heavy. It's not as heavy as these ones, but it's definitely heavier than the glass, and it can sound a little harsh, as well as you can get some copper ones as well. But yeah, that's, I would say, for me, in my ears, that's kind of the difference between them. So it depends on what you're after, you know, more resonant, but maybe a little bit more kind of, when I say harsh, like, I mean, you know, kind of those top range frequencies, you know, it's basically metal on metal, you know, you're going to get a little bit sort of that kind of sound, you know, whereas it's glass on metal, it's kind of less harsh sounding. Do you use a lot of reverb when you use the slide? Yeah, if I'm playing live, although I haven't actually turned it on. I hope I haven't turned it on, otherwise I'll look really silly. No, it's off. Someone would have said something if I had my reverb on. So I'm just using the microphone today. Sometimes I have like my pickup plugged in, and I usually would if I was playing live. So yeah, I would definitely have a little bit of reverb when I play slide for sure. Let me just let me just turn on a bit of reverb and play a bit, and then you can kind of hear how that sounds. So it's that kind of thing, you know. It sounds really nice with a little bit of reverb for sure. And you can kind of hear in there, you know, I'm getting a lot of other sounds, which is fine to an extent. Depends on, you know, what you're after, but I quite like clean sounding slide. A little bit of roughness is all good, you know, especially with slide, but I don't like too much other sort of fret and string sounds when I play slide. Yeah, I definitely need to practice some bottleneck stuff. And the cool thing with bottleneck is that you can then still use your other fingers, you know, which I really like. So I can still, you know, use these other fingers that I have and just play normally. And you see a lot of players do this, that players that use a lot of bottleneck, you know, they're sort of, they'd play a lick and then finish, go in between playing with fingers and then with a slide. Just sounds really nice without missing a beat, Yeah, so that's kind of bottleneck slide. Let me see if there were any more other questions. Yeah, Ronald says, I have a plastic one made by Dunlop. Really? Interesting. Maybe it's like really hard plastic. I should imagine it's like very thick, almost glass-like. Yeah. I might have seen something like that. Probably thought it was glass, but I can imagine, yeah, maybe they create like plastic ones that maybe they're a bit harder than glass. I don't know. Break less easy, because I would, if this hit like a stone floor or something like this, it would definitely break, and I would probably cry because it's just really lovely, and it wasn't too cheap, if I remember correctly, and it sounds really nice. So I would, yeah, be quite sad. Glass and porcelain slides seem to constantly roll off tables and smash. Yeah. You know what? I always I always leave my slide like that, You never pull a slide like that. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, yeah. There we go. I always kind of leave it on the tables like that. Probably for that reason. I can imagine they roll off very easily and smash. A Songhurst aged brass swamp slide. That sounds amazing. Super heavy. Is that a that's a bottleneck, right? That's something that you put on your finger, huh? Polycarbonate should do the job. Yeah. Very thick and hard. Yeah. Is that Ronald? Is that the plastic one you're talking about? Yeah, it's a thing of like, you got to think about the resonance as well, I wonder how resonant the plastic slide is. That would be interesting to hear. Because in my head, I think like the harder it is and the heavier it is, especially the weight, really contributes to the resonance of a slide. In my kind of experience. So let's go. I wanted to just talk about why slide is so great, and then I might show my other guitar. And place them on the lap so you can kind of hear the difference as well. I just think it's so accessible, This is why I think every player should play slide. It's just so accessible. You can pick up a slide pretty cheaply. You can turn pretty much any guitar into a slide playing guitar. Just maybe you experiment with various open tunings, maybe bring your action up slightly. But I'll just tell a funny story of how I got into slide. It wasn't until a bit later in my life. I was like in my sort of early 20s, and I had just moved to Italy actually with my folks. So I was living in the UK. I think I was around 19, 20, still living at home with my parents, typical millennium kid. And I was working in a. I don't want to faffle on too long. I was working in a music shop, and I finished studying guitar at Academy of Contemporary Music in the UK, and I didn't see myself. I was kind of stuck musically, and as a lot of people do when they finish studying, they feel kind of stuck and not know where to go next. My folks wanted to move to Italy, so I thought that was a great adventure. So I went with them, and they moved to this. I thought I'd help them set up, and they set up like a little holiday home just in the country in Italy. Beautiful place, and they moved in this place, and the electrics of the house were so dodgy. The earth that it was put in years ago, and it wasn't used for years. It was so dodgy that I couldn't use any of my electric instruments. And I was playing a lot of electric stuff at the time. So all I had with this old acoustic, and the neck was so bowed like this. It was ridiculous. I don't know what happened to it. I just never played it, and it just I don't know. Maybe it got left on a radiator or something like this. Maybe I was an idiot back then, and it was like this. It was literally the strings were like that far off the fretboard, so I couldn't play it normally. So I actually just, for that reason, I played it on my lap, like with just like a piece of metal or something with a slide, because that's all that I could do, because I couldn't plug in my amps or my guitar or anything, because we had to completely redo all the electrics, and it really wasn't safe, especially for something like an amplifier. It needs to have good grounding in the electrics. So that's what basically got me started on slide guitar. So I thought I'd share that story. Quite funny. And I really enjoyed it. And there's something about playing slide on your lap that I just really, really enjoy. It's so much fun, and it's so different to playing it bottleneck. I mean, I'm not saying it's better. There's benefits and drawbacks to both. With bottleneck, you can also use your fingers, which is very handy. And switch between the two. Obviously, if you're playing it like this, I can't use my fingers. I just have to use the one slide. But this is an old Regal guitar resonator. Regal was a company that I think they made guitars in Indonesia, I think. It's like from the 90s, this one. It's like not as good as the Nationals or the Dobros, this sort of level, but it's still, they're still pretty nice guitars, and this is no exception. It's fairly nice, and it sounds pretty good. It is a little beaten up though. Has a hole in the back. I don't know how that happened, but I just decided to keep the hole in there. I've got it tuned in CGC. That would be what would that be? Can't even remember what I have it in now. It's basically a C minor chord, right? So when you're playing on your lap, it's a lot better if you have something that is an open chord, and this is set to a minor, C minor. chord, and you can just hear how, you know, resonant the string, the notes are because of how heavy this slide is, you know. It's also a lot easier to sort of switch in between them, in between the strings, because of, firstly, because of this slide and the shape of it. It's just really, I can really get to the edge. And also just the view. I'm like a bird's eye view on the guitar. And that really helps, you know. It's a bit like a piano in that I can see everything, you know. Whereas this, you know, you can't, it's a lot hard to kind of see what you're doing. And for slide, it's kind of important to see what you're doing because you can't feel those frets, you know. So you need to be able to see that you're on the note that you want to be on, you know. And this is actually, not originally a lap guitar. This was originally made to be like a normal standard upright guitar like this. I don't know if you can see on the nut there. Don't know if you can see that slightly. There's one of these. You can get these things. These basically a metal thing that you put over the nut, and it just raises. It raises the action slightly, and that allows me to basically turn any guitar into a dobro style lap guitar. You just need to raise the strings slightly on this end, and just make sure that they're fairly even, and that's it, you know. So then you can turn any guitar into a lap slide guitar, which is pretty cool. But there are certain things that I do, especially this guitar, I do get certain kind of rattles and something going on. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that it has a hole in the back, and there's probably something in there that's just kind of rattling. But I think it kind of adds to the roughness of it, you know. All right, I'll do a song now. I'll do a song and then I'll look at any more questions. Do a song called For You. This is on my latest album, and I played it on this guitar as well. Here we go. much money. I can't hold a job, no. Not very funny. And socially odd. But there's one thing that I can do, just this one thing that I can do. Sing this for you. I ain't much, a business-minded man, no. And I ain't got no grand scheme kind of plan. But there's one thing that I can do, just this one thing that I can do. Sing this for you. Got much money, can't hold a job, not very funny, socially odd. But there's one thing that I can do, just this one thing that I can do. Sing this for you. that was for you. So that gives you an idea of how resonant the slide can be played on the lap, you know. And I don't know if you could notice how more confident I was playing slide on my lap like this, to opposed to bottleneck, you know. And obviously, it's a bit of a unfair comparison, because I'm using a resonator, comparing a resonator to the sound of a standard steel string. But that can kind of, give you an idea of the sort of sounds that you can create with a slide. Just going through, if there's anything I wanted to kind of else to talk about slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about why it's so great, slide guitar. And I talked a little bit about that I think it's so accessible to anyone. And the first thing that people are going to struggle with is actually getting a decent sound to start off with, And I talked a little bit about, you got to really hit on the frets. That's where the note is, because the slide basically replaces the fret. It's a movable fret. That's exactly what it is, And I would start by just kind of trying to hit just any fret. Don't worry about vibrato. Don't worry about sliding for now. Just try and hit the notes. Just kind of go up. Don't worry about being in the key or whatever like that. It's just getting used to this thing that's on your finger, or whether you're playing it on your lap as well, you can do the same thing, It's just getting comfortable with creating these notes, replacing the fret with the slide. Then once you get more comfortable with that, then you can start adding a bit of vibrato, and then dampening as well, like I talked about before, dampening behind the neck, just to give it that clean sound, Still just using one notes, I much prefer just being able to just do individual notes, and then with my right hand, I can play some drones over the underneath, And still just stick to the first string, because it gets a lot tricky once you try to move strings with the slide. As I say, you have to kind of, avoiding those other strings, kind of angle the slide downwards, trying to hit it, which is not that easy. And then you can experiment with like actual sliding between notes, and then creating some little licks maybe. Let's go to... Did I talk about everything? I wanted to say it does create a unique sound, That's something I wanted to point out with slide. That slide is playing, that someone is using a slide. It's a sound that is very specific, and very unique. Unless the only other way you can create, it's very vocal-like, You can kind of create another vocal-like sound, The only other thing that can kind of replace that or sound similar to that is by bending the note, can sound a little bit like that. And also if you're using a fretless guitar or anything like this. Fretless instruments can also sound like this, although, I wouldn't say I think I could tell the difference between a fretless guitar and someone just using a slide. You know, it is a very specific sound. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. Let's go to the comments. Many Vibes is here. Hey, Many Vibes, how's it going? All right, so let's see if there's any questions. G says, have you tried a jet slide? You can move it out of the way so that all your fingers are free for fretting. I have not heard of that. You can move the slide out of the way. Oh, maybe I have seen this. Is it basically like a half slide? So this is the thing. I've seen this thing where it's like a ring, and so it's basically a slide cut in half, and then you can turn it round so that you can use all your fingers, and then you can turn it. I wonder how hard it would be to turn it round in between playing and then use it and then turn it back. I don't know. Is that the thing? Is that the thing you're talking about? So you move it out the way and then you can use your finger and it still be on your finger because it's kind of like a ring. I wonder how awkward that would be playing, whether it's just this kind of chunk of metal that's just hanging there. And I don't know. Has anyone used anything like that? Let us know in the comments. You have the same Regal resonator. Fantastic. It's great, isn't it? I like it, but in much better condition. Yeah, mine's pretty banged up, I have to say. Many Vibes says, how different is the tone if one uses a metal slide compared to glass or ceramic? You know, I haven't used a ceramic before. If anyone else has experience with ceramic slides, please let us know. But I've used glass and metal, and I talked about this earlier, but it's basically with glass, you have some advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that it's light, and that it has the tone, I would say, is less harsh sounding. It's sort of a softer sound, I guess. You know, I don't actually have a metal bottleneck. If you know what I mean, metal slide to go on my finger. I only have the metal this slide, which I'm not gonna do on this because it's probably gonna put a dent in my neck here, because it's so heavy. These ones, they're super heavy. But I would say the metal slides are definitely slightly harsher sounding, and sometimes you do get this sort of, especially if you're doing some fast movements. It's also heavier. That's with one that also fits on your finger. Definitely heavier than a glass, so you can't move it around as easy. And it's a bit harsher sounding, but it is more resonant. That's the thing. I feel anyway that a metal slide is more resonant. Maybe you heard it when I was playing the resonator. The resonance on the resonator was a lot more. Fancy that. And a lot of it is to do with the metal heavy slide. I also like to have on my, especially lap slides, I like to have super thick strings on the strings that are not wound. Specifically these two here, the first and second strings are not on this one. On the lap slide ones are 14 and 18, so it's like heavy gauge. And that just gives a nicer tone, especially when using a metal slide. So if you're using a guitar, if you happen to have a guitar that's set up just for slide, I'd really recommend using heavier strings if possible. If it works with your guitar and if it works with tunings that you use. Of course, you know, you need to be careful of if you're using tunings that where you're having to have tighten up your strings, you know, and you're using super heavy strings. You know, obviously need to be careful with that about tension and stuff like this. But generally, I think most people are, when you're playing slide, you're tuning down and using lower tunings. So I'd recommend using heavier strings anyway with slide, because it just sounds better, I feel, and it's more resonant with the slide. So that's kind of the difference between metal and glass. If anyone has an experience with ceramic, please let us know. We've already been there, many vibes. Yeah. Well, you know, it's good to say it again. I don't mind talking about it. Fabian used hid normal steel string with normal action. He has a special nut on his, yeah, exactly, special nut and resonator. You guys have had this conversation already. I'm just reading it again. All right, I'm gonna look out for questions now. Yeah, I did talk about muting techniques. Yeah, although I haven't really talked about other muting techniques. I just talked about muting behind the slide, really. You know, I haven't talked about right hand muting or anything like that. Maybe that's for another one, but it's pretty much the same, I guess, with right hand. I don't do too much right hand muting. Depends, you know, with finger picking stuff. I would probably do certain muting on certain strings, but it would be the same with any finger picking I would do, regardless of the slide. It's more about the muting behind the slide. Alexander says, write in this comment while you're singing, feel like something inside me is being well regulated, like a good night's sleep. I appreciate that. Ring slide, is the ring slide what I was talking about, that the jet slide, not exactly half slide, it's like a rod on a ring. Okay, like a rod on a ring. I have to see it. I'm trying hard to imagine it. Justin Johnson's ring slide. Is that similar to what I was talking about, maybe? Okay, so many vibes. You don't. What do you slide with your? Oh no, you want to slide with your pinky one day. Oh yeah, so you slide with your ring finger then. Or did I misread that? Yeah, muting can be a whole different thing. Just muting in general, you know, I find it's a lot. Muting is very important of what strings you're not playing, and you know, what strings you are, especially also with, I don't talk about strumming. I don't really strum, but I know there are people here that do strum. You know, when you strum, it's obviously important to be thinking about muting, and you know, there's right hand muting, there's left hand muting, but also with slide as well. And I find guitarist called Kelly Joe Phelps was really good at this. He was just super good at muting on the lap slide, and that's where I got the inspiration to play guitar like this, is Kelly Joe Phelps. He would mute with certain fingers on the right hand, similar to how I would do on just playing fingerstyle guitar. You know, you're just aware of the strings that are ringing out. You don't necessarily want all of the strings to ring out all of the time. You know, sometimes you might. but then sometimes you don't, you know. Sorry, that was really loud. You know, I'm sort of have my finger, you can see my right hand, on certain strings here, just to kind of mute them. So I'm playing now the second string with my middle finger, and I'm muting with my ring finger. You see that? So I've just played the first string there, like that, and then immediately I mute it because I don't want that to ring out when I play the next note. But that's another topic that we could dive into separately for a whole different live stream. All right. A great video on YouTube about Michael Hedges muting techniques, not for beginners. That sounds interesting. Michael Hedges is a legend. Yeah, muting can be tricky, you know, but I think if you take it a simple step at a time, you know, just like individual strings, you know. I'm talking about right hand muting here, you know, just practicing that and just getting used to muting straight after without thinking about it. Let's see. And it just can become in handy. You don't necessarily want to use it all the time, but it's just useful for if you want a note to really ring out like I did there. I want that note to ring out, you know. So if I didn't mute this first string, you know, it still rings out and you can still hear it. There's just a lot more noise, and it's sort of just having that note ringing out is a lot more focused, and you're not as distracted with other notes, you know. Exactly, yeah. When you've played for a long time, your fingers automatically mute for sure, especially with slide. I find, you know, because it's so easy for something to just ring out, especially when you're using open tunings. You know, that you don't necessarily want these strings to ring out all the time because it can sound messy very easily. Saw Michael Hedges live live in the 80s. I stopped playing guitar for 2 years after it. Oh. Yeah, he's on another level. Amazing you saw him live though in the 80s as well. Amazing. All right, I'm gonna play another song. It's gonna be my last song, and it's I wouldn't even call it a song. It's just an idea of a song. I still haven't finished it, but I'll just play it. It's basically one verse. Maybe I'll just do the verse a couple of times and do some improvisation a little bit. But it's in a major. So it's like a major chord. I'm just going to put a bit of reverb on. It hasn't even got a name, so I'm just going to kind of play it and improvise it. If you have any last questions, please, yeah, now's the time to ask any questions or anything you have. And I'll answer them after this song. Here we go. My, how time has flown. My, how you have grown. And your mom and me, she just can't believe how much love we see. My, how you have grown. My, how time have flown. And your mom and me, we just can't believe how much love we see. So that was a very short one there, but that's just kind of an idea of a song that's been in the works and then kind of left. I do this a lot. I start a song and then I just kind of leave it. And even though it's good to just leave a song like that, I think it's important to then come back to it and then finish it. And that can be actually really good, is coming back to it, a song, and revitalizing it, and bringing it back to life. But this one's interesting because it's like a C major chord, right? But it's actually, the C is not the root. So that's the root. So that's like, what would that be? I need to work this out. D, E, F, G. So that would be like a G. And it's interesting because I can't go, when I'm playing in the key that is not the open. Not every note works, so I need to be careful about what I'm playing. But this kind of makes things a bit more interesting and makes the chords a bit more interesting, when I go. and then when I go to that open chord, you know, that's still within the key, but because it's not the root, the grounded open chord, it makes it a bit more interesting, because that's home, you know. So that's my unfinished song that I will finish very soon, hopefully. We'll see. Okay, we're going to go to the chat, see if any last questions before we end things here. Ba-ba-bum-bum. See if there's... Oh yeah, some old Sunhouse. Sunhouse is so great. One of my favorites. Some great slide stuff. Eric Haywood. I think I've heard of him. Pedal steel. Pedal steel is a whole nother animal. I'd love to try it. I've never played a pedal steel. I'd love to try it. Looks really complicated though, and they're really expensive. I'd love to try one though. Maybe even have one day, just to play around on. How long does it take to write a song? Yeah. How long's a piece of string? It's it can, you know, it depends on how inspired I am, and you know, I can, if I'm feeling super inspired and really with it that day, then I can finish a song in a few hours. You know, it might not have like 5 verses and lots of pages. It might just be a really simple song, but I quite like simple songs. I don't like to have too many lyrics in my songs, although I have done that in the past and I still do that. I like to have, I'm trying at the moment to kind of say more with less words, which is super hard, but yeah, that's something I'm exploring and trying to do. Sounds lovely so far. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Harry Manx. Harry Manx. I never heard of Harry Manx. Some great suggestions here, though. I'll check these out. And anyone watching on the replay, it's good to check out these guitarists that people are suggesting here. Yeah, exactly. Take some notes, you know, because it's some good suggestions. All right, everyone. It's getting a little late here, so I'm gonna call that a day. Okay. One more question from Many Vibes. One more question. Who's my number one slide musician? Oh, well, it's got to be Caddy Joe Phelps. It's got to be. I mean, that's the modern slide. I mean, when you're talking about slide musicians, you know, there's all the previous ones, you know, the original guys, and if it's one of them, it would have to be. I think it would have to be Blind Willie Johnson. Was an amazing slide player. He's probably my favorite slide player, original. But modern day slide player, probably Kelly Joe Phelps. Yeah. Ronald says Eric Haywood played with Ray. What's that surname? Lamontang? Lamontang? Is that right? Ray Lamontang now plays with the great Jeffrey Foucault. Some great suggestions here. It's Ray Lamontang. I'm probably butchering that name. I got to check some of these out because I feel like I need to check some of these musicians out. Oh, Rai Kuda, of course, yeah. Rai Kuda's great. Amazing. All right. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming to these live streams. I'm gonna do the next sort of load. I'm gonna think about the next sort of four live streams coming up. I like to kind of think about the subjects ahead of time. And I'll just do one last little, if there's anyone here watching on like the replay or anything like that, there's always a link to join the community down below, and there you can like submit live stream ideas. I send out videos, I send out emails, and hopefully if I change the screen now, then you can still see it. Boing. Yeah, there it is. You see that? And still hear me. That's what it's just on my website, and that's what the community looks like. And then you have like these different subjects, and there's all my you can click on one, and there's all my videos, which you can watch. And obviously we have a Facebook group and a Discord group, and you can do some live stream, submit your live stream ideas there. There's a really nice little community that I'm really trying to build, and basically it's what we talk about on the live streams. It's just we can do it, you know, at any time, and it's nice to have this little community, which is growing. You know, more and more people are coming into this, which is really great. I'm really happy to see that that people are joining this and getting some value out of this. This is it, really. You know, I'm trying to give value and inspiration, and me doing this in turn inspires me. You know, when I see other people are into the same stuff that I'm into, it again inspires me. So it's this whole sort of circle that kind of back and forth. So I love it. It's great. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the live stream, and I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you again next weekend. All right, on the next one. Speak soon. Bye.